Welcome, I am Diablo68 and this is Game in Existence, the YouTube channel where we go over everything to do with games, from reviews, help and tips, strategy and everything in between. Today I want to go over what is in my opinion some of the best 4X games which has come out in recent times in the last 2, 3, 4 years, so let's get into it. Number 5 on my list is Stellaris, technically real-time strategy but with the pause function it pretty much is a 4X game. Stellaris is a 4X game which promised to deliver so much and doesn't quite achieve what it wants to do, and it starts right from the start with race selection. You can customise your race and you've got different things, you can, how your people look and things, you can go into quite a bit of depth, but the actual nitty gritty, the numbers, what you can do, they really give you a lackluster amount that you can customise your race, and I feel this right from the start really impacts your replayability of the game. The game provides that sprawling space empire feel, but the micromanagement does become really annoying. And as you go down onto the different planets to actually sort of control what you want to do on them, it's just annoying. It's a lot of micromanagement. You can't quite achieve what you want to do. It has a sector system which doesn't quite work, where you have to hand areas over to the AI. The game it tried to be a sort of a role-playing 4X game, and each time you do a research it gives you random researches rather than a tech tree, and random events come up. It's an interesting idea. For me, I just don't feel that Stellaris is firing on all cylinders. Potential there, but there's just too many nitty-gritty things which get in the way. That being said, the ship design I really like. I think the ship design is really good, how they've done that. With different things that you can do and different loadouts. It's quite cool how they've done it. And the combat is quite nice as well, with nice visuals. Stellaris is... It's a different type of 4X game. It's worth picking up to have a play with if you're really into 4X games, but for me it just doesn't quite work. At number 4 I've got the original Endless Space. With Endless Space 2 coming out, I thought I'd throw this one in to get an idea of what the original was like. The original Endless Space, and hopefully with Endless Space 2 coming out in 2017, they'll do as good a job as they did on the first one. And that's the fact it's got so many things of what all 4X games should have. I mean, right from race customization, a large selection of different races, all with different special starting powers that you can use. And then you can even then customize your race, selecting one of those starting special powers. And then you have a huge selection of different customizations you can do here. Lots of different minuses, so you can have lots of other different pluses. So many things you can do, let alone with tech trees which are different and sometimes completely redesigned for different races. It adds so much replayability to the game. A lot of the mechanics once you get into the game are simple to understand, what pluses and minuses you're getting, system improvements really making it quite easy to use. Endless Space is a really good entry 4X game to get people into the genre. That being said, it does have a really lackluster middle to late game with the combat and ship design not really working. It goes into a sort of rock, paper, scissors type system, and with this lane system, it removes a lot of strategy. Definitely not a perfect game, but it's got a lot of interesting things going on, an interesting tech tree. Endless Space is definitely well worth picking up, or pick up Endless Space 2 when it comes out in 2017. Number 3, I've got Master of Orion, the latest of the series of Master of Orion games. I haven't played the original games, but I have played this one, and these are my thoughts. Master of Orion, I would say, is sort of a modernised, ramped up, revamped Endless Space. It's really quite interesting. It's a real polished game. I think they've done really quite a good job. Race customizations, similar to Endless Space, you can add a lot of minuses. You can really have a big play around of this, changing what you want to do with different things. The tech tree is the same for all of the races, which is a bit of a shame, but there is still a lot of different things with the race customization that you can do here. The visuals are quite nice, and they've done a very good job with the sort of recommending what you can do and having little visuals of how the status of your different planets are around and your fleets. They've really fought into this and really made it a polished game. even more than Endless Space, the actual mechanics of the game are even simpler than that. And they've got a really good system for this, of moving sort of different population around, and you can quickly see the differences of how quickly your population is going to grow, or how quickly you can build different things. The numbers, they've all kept quite low. None of this, you have 2,000 production and then you get another 20% or building which gives you 40%. It's all just quite low, sedate, and it's easy to see different impacts of things you will do. Masters of Orion, very similar to Endless Space, has got a lane-based system, which can reduce some of the strategy of the game. You move around, you blockade systems. It isn't so much of a sneak in around here because you've got the lane-based things. Now, Masters of Orion, it's a very good game. It's not groundbreaking. It doesn't break out and do lots of different things. But what it does do, it does everything well. The ship design is okay. The combat is okay. The tech tree is good. You know, it's well thought out. It's well done. The game itself is just a very good, polished game. It's worth picking up, especially as it's a more modern 4X game. Number 2, I've got another Endless game. At this time, it's Endless Legend, which is the fantasy revamp of Endless Space. Endless Legend keeps with a lot of the good stuff that Endless Space did, and that's including with the race customization. You can select different races, and once again, like Endless Space, each one, like base race that you would select, you have different special abilities, but also it really shows you the different actual units that you get to build as well, their strengths and weaknesses. And again, it has a large thing that you can go through, different stats that you can minus and add, and it really gives you a lot of different race customization that you can go through. The game itself does look really nice. They've really done a good job of the visuals here, and it actually makes you, when you first start playing, you send your units out, and you really do want to try and discover what is in the fog of war and see what's going on. They have done a good job of that. A nice addition with all the different races is you get quests as you go through, and these quests in some of these 4X games, it's like, oh, you do this, fine, you get some extra money and things. In Endless Legend, you unlock special equipment for your characters, things like that. It really makes you want to go out, try different races, and go and do their different quests to get things. There's a hex-based system very much like Civilization, so you go through and you stack your armies and try and defend areas. So it just gives you that strategy as you see different borders coming in to try and sort of get armies across to try and defend yourself. The mechanics of the game are quite interesting as well, in the fact that, you know, it's a standard sort of 4X game with the industry and things, and you can move your population around and things. As you can see, it doesn't look as pretty as Masters of Orion, but it still gives you the benefit. You can easily see what pluses and minuses you're getting. One of the really nice things about Endless Legend is the fact that you can create different units, and when you make the units, you give different equipment to them, which gives you that kind of RPG element. You've gone out, you've researched, or you've done quests to find special equipment, and then you can see the different things that you put onto your characters. It's a nice addition to the game. The combat in Endless Space is also really quite good as well, in the fact that you've done all your sort of customization of your units, and then you get to see them and actually control them on the battlefield. You can either do that manually, or you can just watch as the computer does it for you. And it just adds that nice element to the game, in the fact that it comes in and you've spent that time customizing your units, making sure they've got better initiative, or they can move quicker or take less damage. And then you get to see that out on the map, to see how things work, and it is a little bit tactical as well, and your units level up and you have heroes. It's just quite a nice thing that they've done. Endless Legend gives you that Civilization feel with the hex-based thing, but in a fantasy setting with RPG elements. It's really well done. It's definitely worth picking up. It's got a lot of replayability. Just before we get to number 1, I want to mention a couple of games which didn't quite make it, which are different, and depending on what you want from a 4X game, might be worth picking up. Fallen Enchantress, or Fallen Enchantress Legendary Heroes, which I think is basically Fallen Enchantress 2, is an interesting game with, it's sort of 4X light and more sort of tactical combat based. The 4X elements of Fallen Enchantress really aren't that great. It's kind of 4X going through the motions. It doesn't look good. It's, you know, you just keep stacking buildings for the sake of building buildings that do stuff. The actual 4X side of it isn't that great. But one of the reasons I wanted to include it is because it might appeal to a lot of people, is the fact that really the main thing is this battle system, where it then goes into this hex-based thing, and you can sort of tactically move your units around, and you might have spells and different things and archers and things you can do. So it does give you that element where it's really the 4X side just keeps promoting the fact that then you get heroes to level up and do things. And it is quite cool later on when you get sorcerers which can teleport across the map and drop meteors and kill things. It is quite a nice game. I was going to show you Civilization as well, but I realised I don't actually have it installed on Steam. But this is like the father of all, you know, the parents of all 4X games. It's definitely worth picking up. They always do a good job with the Civilization games. I've got a bit tired of them now, and I found that these other more modern ones, especially space ones, I prefer. But definitely Civilization is always worth picking up and having a look at. At number 1, I've got in Galactic Civilizations 3, which is a bit of a surprise for me because when I first played it, I really didn't like it, and somehow it's managed to get to number 1, so let's find out why. Galactic Civilizations 3 is a really sort of long, sprawling space game that you really get into, and race customization again is you know, it's quite simple. It's definitely lighter than Master of Orion and Endless Space, but it gives you just enough of pluses here, a few minuses here, a few different starting powers, changing what your race looks like, and you can change the different tech tree in your starting homeworld. It gives you just enough to really keep you going back and trying different things when you play it. Galactic Civilizations 3 is by no means a perfect game. The mechanics are quite annoying to try and work out. It's definitely one of those games where everything gives you pluses percentage wise and very few things which just give you like a raw number to work with. Unlike Masters of Orion, where it was really easy to be like, okay, that's a 2, okay, now I'm getting a 4, or this building's going to make it 5. Galactic Civilizations, the mechanics you really need to try and get your head around of how it all works. Hex-based system takes a little while to get used to. It takes a long time to go out and build all of these star bases, and it's got a lot of times where you just need to stop and do a lot of micromanagement to get through. But that being said, once you get past all of these different elements, the game is actually really quite fun and interesting to play. What I do like about Galactic Civilizations having a hex-based system is you end up with like borders and battle lines. These things here, these are my military star bases, and I've ended up with a perimeter of them around my base, and they speed up my ships and slow down my opponents. And I have ships ready to sort of move in and intercept. You lose this with the lane-based system. You can't sneak a load of ships around the back of somebody's base, or you've got to get through my perimeter. It adds to that strategy. The diplomacy is also another thing that I really like in Galactic Civilizations 3. Most times diplomacy just doesn't work in most of these games, but actually in this one you get to see your different track of where you are. This is at the end. I've managed to improve my diplomacy with everyone, but at the start of the game you really have to monitor this, and it makes you really sit there and go, actually I'm going to want to build embassies, because if the computer goes to war with me, I'm going to lose 4 hours that I've just been playing this game, and I'm going to have to go back 2 hours and get more military or do stuff. You feel like you're living this game. You're there and you're like, okay, I'll set up these orange players over here. I'll send them money so that they don't attack me whilst I'm going to war with the blue players, whilst I'm building up defences on this line over here and trading with this other people, you know, and whilst I'm going into the tech tree. And the tech tree is interesting. You've got, you know, this tech tree almost looks like Masters of Orion here, and you've actually got 4 different tech trees that you go through. And you find yourself jumping in and going, actually, these people are going to go to war with me. I quickly improve my diplomacy, improve this, whilst also, okay, I need to get these better weapons. And actually, I want to colonise this different type of planet, and I want to build more stuff. You know, it throws a lot of stuff at you. And you, like all good 4X games, you will just lose hours and hours and hours playing Galactic Civilizations. I mean, this is like, I've got this saved, was this 2 hours in, 3 hours in, 8 hours in. You know, this is a game, if you want to sit down and imagine you are controlling a space empire with diplomacy and research and different things on planets, Galactic Civilizations is the game to play. And that's why it's my number 1, because you feel like you're in a 4X game. You feel like you're controlling a space empire, and that is why I highly recommend it. This was Diablo 68 from Gaming Existence. Keep an eye out for my other videos. All of the games I've mentioned here today I've got reviews for, so if you want to have a bit more of an in-depth look and potentially look at buying one, have a look at those reviews as well so that you can see a bit more in depth of what's going on. I hope you enjoyed it. Keep an eye out for my other videos.